Well, hello. My name is Pedro Dias, and this is SEO in 2024.
Pedro, what is your number one SEO tip for 2024?
So, my number one tip for SEO in 2024 is to learn to deal with large amounts of data and doing data analysis at scale. And this involves some kind of insights into MySQL, querying databases, etc., or even dealing with like spreadsheets and then you have like things like AI that will help you like also skim through trends and stuff like that.
So should every SEO be learning to work with large volumes of data and access scale, or is this just for certain types of SEO roles?
Well, I think as we move and business grow, business become bigger and have more data to analyze, suddenly scale becomes kind of important. Of course, this is more aimed at SEOs that work like in-house, because I don't think like many agency side SEO kind of have this kind of technical approach, but it's more for SEOs that deal with big businesses and businesses that are growing exponentially or have the potential to grow exponentially. They should be prepared to kind of gather data and analyze data at scale, because this will uncover trends and behaviors of crawlers and internal linking and anything that you kind of can pull into a database.
So is there anything in particular that's driving this piece of advice for you? Is it AI?
Yeah, I think in my case, I've started to do this like 4 to 5 years ago already. I did this when I was working with some clients, because back in Brazil, we would go in house with them. Like we would work as a consultant in the client premises, and we would work with their teams and kind of help them establish these connections. But I think with the AI becoming mainstream, it opened a lot of doors to make more of the data that you can actually do just by querying databases and pulling stuff into a spreadsheet. So with having AI and AI with capabilities of interpreting code like ChatGPT, you can easily feed it like a spreadsheet and ask it like to slice the data the way you want it, or find trends in the data that you would not find just by looking at it. So I think this opens the door for a lot of potential in terms of what's coming in for the future, because it's not only big and giant websites that could do this before. Medium companies will be able to do this now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, content creators across any size of organization are certainly empowered to create more content at scale now. How would you summarize best practice and bad practice in the use of automation in the production of content?
So I think automation, the trick, and I always say this because I had one of my business partners in the previous ventures. He was an automation engineer, and he always told me the tricky part of automation is controlling the output, is not the input itself. So, and the bad part of AI and automation is letting it run loose without any kind of curated control on it. So I think what should be done is always like, okay, let the AI kind of bring into your eyes what you want to analyze, but you are the ultimate kind of guardian of what goes out and what gets published or what gets seen. So yeah, use it kind of to surface things that you would otherwise miss, but don't use it like just to replace you or to do it in a unsupervised way.
I mean, do content creators have to use AI and have to use automation now? Because if they don't, are they going to get left behind?
Well, yes and no. I think there will always be the need for a good content creator because, AI can give you ideas. It can take what's already been done and kind of rehash it in a way, but it lacks some human inspiration or creativity or some kind of literacy that sometimes we have, because AI can only build on what's already been created. It cannot come up with something completely new, and sometimes you need that in the creativity process to bring something really good to the table and really different. Otherwise, it's just going to be marginally different. And sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So, for example, you can use AI to create content at scale. And when I say content at scale, it's like content based on data. You can create content that is based on APIs and data and use AI to kind of create that at scale. But it gets tricky when AI has to create something out of and be creative. That's when AIs usually hallucinate. And that's where humans excel, because we can be creative and yet make sense of the creativity in some way and make it understandable for other humans. But the machine doesn't have this sense of limitation, or the limitation that it should have.
So it's important to know what should be automated and what shouldn't be automated. So what shouldn't be automated?
Well, what shouldn't be automated? Probably anything where the output is unpredictable. If you cannot predict the levels of quality of the output, maybe you shouldn't automate it. It's always a matter of testing. Test the output for a while and see if it always comes out clean. If there's a chance that starts to present things that don't make sense, what people would call it gibberish. And because the tricky part of a system fully automated and based on AI is when it starts to output stuff at a certain scale, you might be blind to what's wrong, the things that come out wrong, because there will be a percentage of things that come out wrong get covered by things that come out right. But in the end, that those will kind of, when they reach a certain level, they will hurt your business or your brand or the way people perceive you, because they see, oh, you didn't even put an effort in making these things look right. So I think that should always be the worry or the need or the preoccupation of making things, being a curator of what comes out of a machine and not letting it run loose.
And talking about AI and machines, so obviously we can use AI in the generation of content, but people are also starting to use AI in the consumption of content. So asking ChatGPT, other AI options, specific questions and getting specific answers. So is there anything that we need to do differently to optimize to appear in AI-driven results?
I don't think, because when as you said, we are using AI for very specific things. For example, just 2 days ago, I was looking for a formula in Google Sheets that I didn't remember, and I was looking for some kind of tutorial on YouTube on how to use this formula. And I was like, I just didn't find it. YouTube just presented me things that were using this formula to do other things, but not what I wanted to do. So in the end, I said, okay, why am I doing this? Why didn't I go to ChatGPT yet? So I went to ChatGPT and inputted what I really wanted to do for my specific case, and voila, I got the answer that I needed. But this is a very specific thing. It was probably 100 people here in the UK want to do this. And it's not like something that an SEO would go after or some content publisher would go after, because it doesn't have the volume to give you, to justify you creating a piece of content around it. So for these cases where the usage is a very niche usage or in a very specific thing that happens once every 5 years or something like that, you have these uses of an automated AI that can help you with things that it saw somewhere, or it learned from looking at things and understanding what you are after. So I don't think you have to use AI to create anything for this kind of use, but that's what AI will fulfill. That's the need that AI is aimed to fulfill.
And talking about AI assisting with the creation process, is there any particular software that you're using or that you'd like to recommend that you found really greatly assists with the automation and the speeding up of the creation of content?
I don't create much content.
Or any software that helps with the automation, probably not just focusing on content. Yeah,
there are a few. I don't remember, but I use like a few plugins that pull ChatGPT into Google Spreadsheets, for example, to help you kind of with formulas. So you just say, "Oh, I want to do this or that in this spreadsheet," and it does it for you. But otherwise, I don't use much more tools, except the interface itself, because in my case, what I use sometimes is like I'm running a SQL query and I'm failing to fix an error in the SQL query that I'm running, and I ask ChatGPT, so what's wrong with my query? And it tells me, oh, you have a curly brace here, where you have a curly air quotes. And SQL is very tricky with the quotes that it uses. It has to be like the straight quotes and not the curly quotes. So if you are using those, sometimes it's invisible to the human, or almost invisible to the human eye, and it kind of really helps you fix that. But otherwise, I use like one plugin that I found, like, to bring ChatGPT into Google Sheets. I think there are a ton of them now, but that's what mostly I use. Nothing like fancy or anything like that.
And has AI meant that we need to move past algorithm chasing and attempting to cheat the Google system?
I think we should have done that kind of long time ago, before AI. I mean, since Google moved into, core updates. Core updates mean that they bulk the ton of stuff into the updates that they are doing, and it's just part of the main algorithm. It's almost impossible to chase an update and tell what it changed, because, the thing is, like, once you've seen a website in the past, for example, we all know that Google has like algorithms aimed at like sites that abuse keyword stuffing, or sites that do what they call thin affiliation. So sites that kind of put all this kind of product they live off affiliation, but they do very little effort in producing really added value content that should be there. So Google has systems aimed at this. And when a core update comes, if it affects a site like this, it doesn't mean that was the core update that affected it. These algorithms have been working for a decade or more, and they have been worked well. Google can improve them, but they don't really change. So it's not like, it should not be news that for a thin affiliate website, or for a thin affiliate case, or a website that has other kinds of problems, that suddenly a core update came and kind of, now it's the fault of the core update that affected this website. So what we need to understand is that systems and algorithms that Google has in place and always has had don't stop working or are not replaced by core updates, and kind of this kind of work in tandem. They work in parallel. So it's sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between, if it was a coincidence that my thin affiliate website went down when a core update hit, when in fact was the thin affiliate algorithm that hit the website countless times in the past. And just because it was hit now, it doesn't mean that, that's the thing, like, correlation is not necessarily causation. And I think SEOs are, I'm not saying all, because I think the industry overall is getting better, but many people that don't have the necessary or good information tend to be derailed, go after chasing this. So it's usually a waste of time.
I'm just looking up to see if mythinaffiliatesite.com is available. I think it might be. No.
Sorry if I rambled quite a bit here.
That was good. It was good. And at the end of the day, it's common sense. If you're building a long-term business, you're thinking of people and real signals, and you're not just trying to gain short-term traffic. And then if you run, I guess, what would be a thin affiliate site, you have to accept that you're raking in as much money as possible in a short time as possible, because your site's not going to retain long-term rankings.
Yeah, you should align your expectations with how much you're going to get out of it for how long. So yeah, that's mostly it.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2024?
Well, I think mostly of all, stop chasing Google algorithms. That's one. It's certainly a waste of time. And the other things, I would say, we are very pulled into and curious about what Google is changing, but we often forget to work for what we think the future is. So I think, be where the puck is going to be. Don't chase after it. And this means that if you know stuff like, I should do a better structure of my website, or how should I work a structure of specific website depending on its vertical of operation, because the vertical and what composes the products that compose a vertical and how people search those products dictates how the things are organized, because we organize information differently according to the context that we are in. So the same applies to the website. Not all websites should be structured the same way. Certainly, it's not news to anyone. So I think we should be more vocal and more teaching other people and mentoring other newer SEOs in areas that are the base of SEO, like information architecture and all the user experience areas and web accessibility. I don't think SEOs understand why they are doing sometimes. Why are they doing alt text? It's a web accessibility requirement, but why? Why does search engines see value in alt text? So once we understand all of these areas and we start working, our our SEO mindset should work taking information from these areas and working according to the areas, not according to our SEO mind and not according to Google. So I think that's what we should do more. And that's where you put yourself where the puck is going to be, because that's what Google wants to aim for.
Yeah, that's a great quote. That's Wayne Gretzky. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it's been. Absolutely. Pedro Dias is founder at Visively, and you can find him over at visively.com. Pedro, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2024.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2024, the book, over at seoin2024.com.